In 2020, portals leading to other dimensions began to appear. They appeared all over the planet. This led the whole world before something crazy starts. Most countries have sent their troops to these gates to find out more about them, but not a single person returned alive. Then hordes of monsters began to emerge from this godforsaken gate. They were so powerful and invincible that all modern weapons could do nothing against them, and they began to attack all the people who happened to be in their way. But some patrons began to choose people whom they endowed with amazing power and abilities. They were called hunters. With the hunters at the forefront, humanity began to strike back. Because of this, their abilities began to progress more and more with each kill. Patrons can grant active hunters additional strength and abilities, with the help of which they become even more powerful and as a result invincible. Among the countless number of hunters, there appeared one whose strength was immeasurable, an immortal army of soldiers, and the ability to control fire. The whole world called him the Demon King. He possessed the special ability, the player. Only he could progress through hunting, but it was ruled by 12 great heroes who were equated with gods. His existence was erased from the pages of history forever, and people who called themselves gods to create Eden. Hunters began to be considered a new step in evolution, and those who could not become hunters turned into slaves. Hunters began to rule the world, and in this way 100 years have already passed. Life has changed and acquired new colors. The boy ran very fast, and it was noticeable that he was running away from someone. Sweat was already dripping from him, but he continued to run headlong. A man was sitting on the tree that the boy was running through. He asked the boy if he had finished yet. The boy replied that he had already reached his limit, and he had absolutely no energy left to move on. Although he said that he wanted to change the whole world, but with such an attitude, he can hardly become a hunter. In order for patrons to notice him, you need to go beyond your capabilities. The man's name was Songu. The guy asked him when he was first noticed by a patron, or if he was also going over his limit and moving on. Songu replied that it wasn't like that because he was supported and helped from the beginning. The boy lowered his eyebrows, and it was clear on his face that he thought it was completely unfair. Songu said that life is not fair. The indicator was even that the boy was an ordinary person and he was a hunter. He offered the boy to do something else if he could not continue, and did not have the strength. Songu held out his hand in front of him. He spoke a few unintelligible words, and a stick appeared in his hand, and threw it to the boy. Was it really the inventory of a real hunter? He was amazed every time he saw such a thing. The man said that there is nothing to be surprised about. As soon as he becomes a hunter, he will immediately understand everything. The guy smiled, and he didn't seem to really believe it. After he learned that his parents were killed by hunters, Songu gave him a book as a keepsake. It described a fight the hunters had started, and he wanted to fix it. Songu helped him get through all those years of training, but when the thought of what he was able to achieve creeps into his head, he gets the impression that he will never be able to become a hunter. But in reality, whether he will become a hunter or not, only heaven decides, so they say in Eden. The man hit the boy and said it was all a lie. He asked not to think about the bad, and he will definitely become a hunter. Songu assured him of this, and asked if he still had the book he had given him earlier. He kept asking the boy about it. Of course he had it, and kept it in a secret place, because it was a memory of his parents. It was the autobiography of a forgotten hero whose history was erased by 12 gods. Songu kept asking about her, but the boy promised never to lose her. The boy handed this book to the hunter and said that if this hero were alive now, the world would be kinder and would remain the best place in the universe. A woman watched their conversation, who finally found them. She started using her magic against them, but Songu noticed it. Her blast wave was moving clearly towards them, but Songu pushed the boy away from him. He fell far from the explosion site under a tree. There was a huge explosion and the woman watched it. Her task was to kill them. The boy was shocked. He could not understand what was happening here. Then this woman came down to him. He was able to get a close look at her and realized that it was a hunter. But why did she appear here? She ordered him to bow before her. After these words, he immediately fell to his knees. But the thing was that his body just did what she ordered. He couldn't do anything. His body was out of control. Other hunters descended from the sky. They bowed their heads before the woman. As it turned out, it was the queen of all Eden, Lady Athena. The boy was surprised that before him stood the ruler of Eden of the highest rank. But what did one of the 12 founding gods of Eden forget? She said he couldn't have run far and ordered the hunters to capture him and bring him to her. They understood the task, but they rose high into the sky at the same time. They only managed to get on his tail. The woman wondered who this boy was and what he had forgotten here. She didn't see a drop of magic in him. The boy understood that he now had the autobiography of the demonic king, and it is she who hides the dirty crimes of the 12 heroes which they have been hiding all along. He hoped that she would not suspect him of this and would simply let him go. She said it was just a worthless slave. After that, she turned around and walked away. He was afraid to look up because he didn't know if she had already left. But as soon as he wanted to get up, she flew to him in a second and said that she felt magical power from him, although almost no traces of it remained. His heart beat faster, and his breathing became more frequent. His look was frightened, and he was sweating all over. Seeing how he froze, she guessed that he might have something that could not be shown. Athena leaned over to the boy and told him to show and tell everything he knew. His body moved by itself. Now he understood what the true power of the gods was. He tried to control his limbs and ordered them not to move, but it was useless. He understood that if this book fell into her hands, then he would be dead. She could even make him talk. The boy took out a book and started talking about it. This is the story of a demonic king who was a true hero to mankind. Eden definitely didn't want the world to know his story. Athena picked up this book. The boy was scared and thought that everyone close to him would die. If something goes wrong, his entire district can be wiped off the face of the planet. This is exactly how Eden works. They forcefully take away or destroy what is in their way. He couldn't just give this book away. Tears began to appear in his eyes. Athena set this book on fire and destroyed it with her magical power. She was finally able to find her. It was a biography of a demon king. She did not know how she had appeared to such a slave, but she found it and took it away. At that moment, Songu called her an attacker. All the land nearby was broken. Songu grabbed the book that Athena picked up. The boy burst into tears when he saw his mentor. He was saved. Songu said that he can't cry because he is a man. He praised him for holding up well and doing a great job of keeping the book safe with him. The boy asked who Songu really was. How could he stand up to one of Athena's 12 gods? He apologized and said that he did not have much time to tell him everything in detail. Songu didn't think he would be found so quickly. The guy kept saying the same thing all the time, that he wants to change the world. Therefore, he decided to make a bet on someone like that and gave the book back to the boy. Songu said that the hunters have declared themselves gods and are ruling the common people. Anyone as weak as the boy is like domestic cattle, waiting for someone stronger to deal with him. If he has the power to change the world, a power that can withstand 12 gods, then will he still want to change the world for the better? While the boy stood in thought, Athena recovered and activated her magic power. She wanted revenge. Athena was advancing, and they had no time to think. Songu wanted the boy to answer him clearly because he will not be able to face Athena alone. The guy replied that he agreed, and if he could get hold of such a power, he would definitely change the whole world. Songu was satisfied with such an answer, and he pierced the boy with his sword. But the boy did not expect such a mentor. The boy's eyes immediately became bright yellow. Songu said if he meets him there to be nice to him. The boy flew into the air and did not understand what was happening around him. It seemed to split into small pieces. Then it completely disappeared. A contract was executed and patronage obtained. The guy appeared in a completely different dimension. It seemed to be assembled from tiny particles. Li Jun was getting used to the new place. He was sure that he had been pierced by a sword, but now there was not a single scratch on him. The body felt completely different than before. The power that was now felt in his body, and this voice that told him about receiving patronage. Has he become a hunter now? But he absolutely did not understand where he was now. There was an unclear area around him, as if he was on another planet. The magical power he feels emanates from his body. Was he inside the gate? He heard footsteps not far from him, but he is not ready to make new acquaintances. Therefore, he decided that he needs to quickly hide at least until the moment when he understands where he is and how he got here. When he hid, he saw a goblin, and now he was absolutely sure that he was inside the gates of the dungeon. Goblins are the initial and weakest monsters, but they were much more dangerous than one could imagine. That is why they are also called rookie killers, because of their excellent sense of smell and hearing, as well as their crazy hunting style. For newcomers who appear here without any information, meeting them is tantamount to death. The boy hoped that this goblin would disappear and not notice him. But he smelled the boy and noticed him. He was forced to find a way out and somehow solve this situation. He grabbed the rock. The boy didn't understand if what he learned from Songu would work on him. But he had no choice now. He can only rely on the abilities he studied with the hope of becoming a hunter in the future. He threw a stone to distract the goblin, and he did it well. The goblin turned away and began to look in a completely different direction. At that time, the boy grabbed his hand and cut off his head. He was surprised. The goblin flew into small pieces after his impact. The boy was shocked by his strength. He just wanted to scare him and steal the weapon. He still could not believe that he most likely became a hunter. He received a message that an angel had paid attention to him. He knew it was a demon king. While the boy was thinking, a whole horde of goblins was already heading towards him. They heard absolutely any sound. There were a lot of them, even more than expected. And the worst part was that the guy behind all these goblins was their leader, the boss of the goblin dungeon. The hero thought that this was his end. He was very sorry because he had only recently awakened as a hunter. He understood that he was no match for their leader. But the boy remembered Sangu's words that a real man never despairs. And if he has the power to change the world, and which is able to resist the 12 gods, will he still want to change this world? And the boy answered then, if he can take possession of such a power, then he will definitely change this world. Then he realized that he could not die so easily here and now. He had no right to it until he changed this world. Angel paid attention to him, and it was a chance that is given only once in a lifetime. The hero sped up, and with the help of his skills and anger, he began to destroy the goblins one by one. He was motivated by his promise and couldn't let Sangha down. There were fewer and fewer goblins. He destroyed them as if in training. He cut off the hands and heads of some. Some he divided in half. The rest simply died from weapons. And his efforts were not in vain. Memories of the teacher appeared before him again, and he moved to another dimension where there were a lot of autumn trees. And it happened because he raised his level. He remembered Sangu saying that when he looked at this boy, he began to understand what a genius looked like. Ordinary people have limits. But if he received patronage, then he was sure that this boy would become a hunter who was second to none. Meanwhile, the hero was able to raise his level again. All the goblins were destroyed. He was able to do it, but only one remained. Their strongest leader. The boy looked at him with a pitiless look. After that, he jumped on him and struck him. But he was very powerful, and the hero just flew away from him as if from a trampoline. Even if it was a goblin, it was still a boss. In the rules, it is written that in order to defeat the goblin leader, you need to be at least an S-rank hunter. Otherwise, there was no point in even trying. The boy had just woken up and most likely had an E or F rank. I wonder if someone like him who just woke up can kill the goblin leader. He had no choice but to try to do so. He took the stick and wanted to put all his strength into his blow. He adjusted himself to concentrate all his power in one point. The spear is the weapon of the Demon King, and also the best weapon he has. And now he has the authority to use it. The end of the spear caught fire. The boy began to prepare for an attack and began to run away. He was maximally motivated at this moment. The hero put all his strength into this attack, and he was able to destroy the leader and raise his level again. He coped with this challenge. But now the power of his spear was reduced to 0. But as expected after the boss battle, it was all he was capable of. And the boy fell powerlessly to the ground. But he was lying there alone among the corpses. Newborn knights entered this territory. The entire area was littered with goblin corpses. They did not understand who could kill them all. Even the goblin leader was dead. Then they saw this guy who was alive and still breathing. They approached him and began to look around.